Welcome, special people. Be careful who you show kindness to. They might be a billionaire in disguise. This isn't just a warning, it's a sign. You, the chosen one, have no idea who you just helped. Think about that for a moment. While you were out there being loving, showing grace, and offering help without expecting anything back, someone powerful but humble was quietly watching. Here's something to know. 70% of billionaires intentionally stay low-key to see how people treat them without knowing who they are. No fancy jets, no expensive watches, just a simple look and a quiet voice, hoping to believe in humanity again. And you, chosen one, without even trying, gave them that reason. You weren't trying to network, show off, or impress. You were just being your usual kind, calm, and soulful self, maybe even wondering if your kindness was worth it anymore, especially with how people act these days. You might have even thought kindness needed some kind of official status to be respected. But the joke's on those who chase fame. You were earning something much more valuable, something they don't even know exists. And here's the twist. The billionaire you unknowingly helped has been looking for someone like you, real, honest, and trustworthy. Now that they've found you, everything is about to change. Stay focused, because by the end of this message, you'll realize that one act of kindness you almost forgot about has put you in a position for a life you never saw coming. Let's understand this better. 1. Your kindness wasn't random. It was a test watched by powerful people. What you thought was a simple act of kindness, maybe holding a door, giving directions, sharing food, or saying something encouraging, was actually a setup, not just for them, but for you too. It wasn't a small, unnoticed moment. It was being watched, not just by the person you helped, but by who they really were, someone with great power to change your life without needing praise. You had no idea that the person in front of you had the power of a billionaire hidden under ordinary clothes. You didn't see their wealth because you weren't looking for it. That's key. You weren't acting, trying to impress, or looking for an opportunity. You were just being real, and that's rare. That billionaire didn't need another person begging, flattering, or trying to connect with them. They've seen that act many times. But you showed them something they hadn't seen in years. Kindness without any hidden agenda. That moment made you stand out. The universe saw it, and so did they. While others chase success with strategies, you passed a spiritual test that put you in line for a reward you couldn't have planned. The very thing others might have criticized you for, being too kind, helpful, and generous, is what opened a secret door, and you didn't even know it was happening. The person you helped might have looked like they needed you, but what they really needed was to be reminded that honesty still exists, that pureness isn't gone, and that some people help just because it's the right thing to do. And now, they're ready to make sure you never doubt your worth again. 2. You didn't save a billionaire. You saved someone who had given up on humanity. You didn't just help someone with money. You helped someone who had nothing left inside. On the outside, they had everything people want: status, wealth, access. But inside, they were tired, empty, and almost done with people. What they weren't telling anyone was that they were slowly pulling away from trust, from the idea that real love or honesty still existed. Then you came along. Not flashy, not trying to gain anything, just genuinely kind when no one expected it. That moment hit them hard. They didn't need another fake smile, another yes man, or someone worshiping their money. What they needed was one real person to remind them that not everyone is fake. Your kindness didn't just help them, it stopped a downward spiral. You became that unexpected moment they couldn't forget. The way you spoke, the way you treated them like a person instead of a bank account, it changed something in them. They were at a breaking point, maybe not physically, but emotionally and mentally. They were ready to cut people off, give up on being generous, and disappear. Then you gave them a reason not to. What you did wasn't just nice, it gave them life. You unknowingly reached into a tired soul and reminded it what it felt like to be seen without being judged, needed without being used. Now that they've thought about it, they realize you didn't just offer help, you offered hope. A quiet, unexpected rescue with no conditions. That kind of impact lasts. Now they're not just thankful, they're deeply moved. And when powerful people feel something real, they act. You didn't just save their day, you saved their belief in goodness, and that kind of act gets rewarded. 3. You changed a timeline with a simple act. That one act of kindness you gave so naturally, without thinking too much about it or expecting anything back, did more than just help someone. It caused a real change. You didn't just brighten someone's day, you started a whole new path. The universe works on energy, not just effort. When your energy is pure, sincere, and connected to something higher, even the smallest act can have big effects. You weren't just being nice, you were operating at a level few people reach, one where love doesn't have to be earned, where help doesn't come with strings attached, where you give because it's who you are, not because you want something in return. That kind of energy is powerful. It changes things. What you did might have seemed forgettable at the time. You might have walked away and never thought about it again. But on a deeper level, that moment marked both you and them. Without even knowing it, you changed what could have been a very dark path for the other person. And now you're about to see that kindness come back to you in a big way. People often think of karma as just about revenge or justice, but they forget it also helps those who live right. When you act with a pure heart, you're not just doing good, you're starting a spiritual chain reaction, and that chain has finally reached you. That billionaire didn't just receive kindness, they received a sign, a break in the cold pattern they were stuck in. Something changed in them, and it's about to change in your life too. Your reward isn't coming because you tried to make it happen. It's coming because you caused a transformation without even knowing it, and now the universe has to respond. 4. You showed the powerful that pureness still exists without a price. The wealthy are used to everything having a cost. Compliments, loyalty, favors, even love. It's all part of a silent deal in their world. Most people around them wear masks, carefully planning every move, every word, every relationship, hoping to get something back. So when someone like you showed up offering pure kindness, without expecting anything, it broke their system. You did what money couldn't buy. You gave something real for free, and in their world, that's unheard of. You didn't flatter them, ask for a photo or a favor, or play the social climbing game. You just treated them like a human being, not a walking wallet. That doesn't happen to them. They're so used to being seen as an opportunity that your honesty hit them like a shockwave. A good one, but also disruptive, because it made them face something they didn't want to admit. Pureness still exists, but it's very rare. What you didn't realize is that your energy carried something old, something clean. You didn't have to announce your worth. They felt it. You weren't trying to be impressive, but your spirit had weight, and for people who've seen it all, bought it all, and done it all, that was more powerful than any luxury brand or business pitch. You reminded them that there are still people who act with honesty even when no one is watching, people who don't act, don't scheme, and just show up as they are. Now they can't stop thinking about it, not because you tried to make an impression, but because you didn't, and that's exactly why you did. The wealthy are quietly watching you now, not out of pity or curiosity, but out of real interest, because while they can buy everything else, they can't buy what you have, and that makes you the most valuable person in the room. 5. Your energy was felt before you even spoke. Something about you changed the atmosphere around them. Your presence had a quiet power, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that gets it without trying. It wasn't just how you looked or acted. It was deeper. It was your energy, the way it entered the room before you did. In a world where most people chase approval, your honesty cut through. They felt it, even if they couldn't explain it. That billionaire, used to reading people and spotting fakes, paused when you came into their space, not because of your appearance, but because your energy didn't have any hunger, desperation, or entitlement. It had something they hadn't felt in years: wholeness. You weren't selling anything, looking for an angle. You were just present, and in that presence, they felt safe. They felt truth. Your energy said things words couldn't. It told them you've seen darkness but didn't become bitter. You've been hurt but still show love. You're not here to impress. You're here to be real. That level of spiritual clarity is rare, and for someone who lives in a world full of masks, meeting someone like you was more than refreshing. It was unforgettable. Days later, they might have forgotten your name, but that feeling stayed. That internal sense that they'd met someone different, someone not driven by the system, someone not shaken by fame or wealth, someone who doesn't need to speak loudly because their spirit already did.
You weren't just felt, you were etched in their memory. 6. You made a powerful person rethink their life's purpose. What you did went beyond kindness. You unknowingly stepped into someone's life at the exact moment they were about to give up on everything, not just their business or status, but the very purpose they once believed in. That billionaire had already decided inside, I'm done. Done giving, done believing, done caring. On the surface, they looked powerful, but spiritually, they were falling apart quietly. Your presence stopped that fall, and it wasn't about a speech or a big act. It was the small, human moment you created, one that didn't ask for anything in return. You didn't offer them a solution. You offered them realness, no mask, no performance, no hidden motives, just pure honesty. And when they felt it, something broke open, not emotionally, but spiritually. People like them don't make sudden decisions easily. But after meeting you, they didn't just feel seen. They felt called out of the fog they were in. They had planned an escape, disguised as moving on, but your presence made them question everything. Why am I here? What if there's more? What if this isn't the end? Just a change of direction. You didn't give them a new plan, but you sparked a new will, and that changed everything. That moment with you made them realize that the world still has light, that the mission they thought was over might still be happening. They didn't need another assistant, they needed a jolt to their soul, and you provided it just by being you. Now they're rethinking everything, looking at their life's purpose again with new eyes, all because your spirit reminded them of a deeper truth. There's still work to do. There's still something sacred left, and they're not done yet. You reignited their mission without even trying. 7. You were the only person who didn't treat them like a wallet. In a world where people measure their kindness by what they can gain, your spirit did the opposite. It disarmed someone who had been reduced to a dollar sign for most of their life. That billionaire, no matter how powerful, had gotten used to being seen as a transaction. Every handshake had an angle, every smile hid an agenda. Even love and charity came with strings attached. People didn't approach them with humanity, they approached with strategy. But you didn't hesitate. You didn't stop to think about their worth. You didn't look for what you could get. Your soul doesn't work that way. You didn't treat them like a wallet, because your spirit isn't built to chase money. It attracts real value. It doesn't beg, hunt, or perform. You have such a pure energy that it shook them out of their usual patterns. You showed them something rare, connection with no hidden costs. They were probably waiting for the catch, waiting for the favor, the request, the expectation, but it never came. And your silence spoke louder than any sales pitch they'd ever heard. Because for the first time in a long time, someone looked at them and saw a person, not a bank account. That one moment with you restored a part of them they didn't realize had gone numb: their dignity, their humanity. You reminded them that they were still more than what they owned, and you did it without trying. That's what made it unforgettable. You weren't trying to impress, and that's exactly why you left an impression. When most people chase approval, your energy gave permission to just be, and for someone who has everything except peace of mind, that was sacred, that was rare, that was healing. You became unforgettable not because of what you said or did, but because you made them feel human again. You made them feel real. And now they know you're not like the rest. You're something they can't buy, replace, or forget. 8. The system mocked you for being kind, but the gatekeeper was watching. They called you soft, said you were too nice, too forgiving, too generous. People acted like your kindness was a weakness, something to be fixed. You were overlooked, ignored, and treated like you didn't belong in places where arrogance was normal. You saw others succeed by being ruthless while you stayed true to yourself. For a while, it felt like the world had decided reward the cruel, punish the kind. But what they didn't know was that someone powerful was watching, not clapping or making noise, just quietly observing. Not just what you did in public, but how you acted when no one was watching. When you had the chance to be bitter but chose compassion. When you were overlooked but still gave your best. When you had every reason to change but stayed true to your values. That gatekeeper, the one with real power, wasn't looking for another loud voice. They were looking for pureness under pressure, and you showed it over and over, without even knowing you were being tested. The irony is that the very trait people mocked you for, your unwavering kindness, was the key that earned their respect. It was what made you unforgettable. Not because it was easy, but because it was rare. Everyone else was trying to impress with ego and fake confidence, but you walked in as yourself, honest and real, and that's what caught their eye. Now, the door that others tried to force open with status is about to open for you, not because you chased it, but because you showed what the system couldn't corrupt. While they were busy mocking your kindness, the real gatekeeper was preparing your invitation. You didn't give in, you stayed kind in a cold world, and that's exactly why you're about to be lifted up in front of the very people who counted you out. 9. They were testing you the whole time, and you weren't supposed to know. That moment you thought was just a regular meeting wasn't. That person who seemed to need help wasn't just anyone. They were a test in disguise. People with real power don't announce themselves when they want to see your true character. They show up looking ordinary to see how you act when no one is watching, when there's no reward in sight. And you passed, not because you knew you were being watched, but because that's who you always are. You didn't change your attitude based on status. You didn't ignore people who didn't look successful. You offered the same respect to everyone, and that was the test. Most people fail because they only show respect when there's something to gain. But you made no difference, and that revealed more about you than any resume could. What they were really measuring was whether your soul could be trusted with more access, more influence, more resources. They weren't interested in who you become when you're trying to impress. They were watching who you are when no one is clapping. And what they saw was rare. Someone whose honesty doesn't change with the situation. Someone who doesn't act kind, but embodies it. Now that the test is over, so is the silence. They've made their decision. And what's coming next isn't just a reward, it's a recognition. You're not being lifted up because you chased it. You're being lifted up because when life whispered, "This one's real," you lived in a way that proved it. You passed the test you never knew you were taking, and now the doors you never dared to knock on are about to open wide. 10. They tried to forget you, but the universe kept bringing you back. They wanted to erase you from their memory, to push it aside like an unimportant thought. But that's not how the universe works. When something real shows up, your presence isn't just a passing moment. It becomes a frequency that echoes through time, a vibration too aligned with truth to simply disappear. No matter how hard they tried to ignore it, your energy kept returning in the silence of their mind, in the quiet between distractions, in the eyes of strangers who reminded them of you. And it wasn't because you were chasing them, begging to be remembered, or forcing yourself into their thoughts. You were simply authentic in a world starving for something real. Your spirit was grounded. Your love was clean. Your truth undeniable. That's what haunts them, not what you did, but who you were. Who you still are. They looked for comfort in illusions. Titles control superficial admiration. But nothing could reflect back to them what you did, a mirror of honesty, of value, of depth. You made them confront what they buried. You made them question their choices, their path, their truth. And in that questioning, they found discomfort, but also clarity. You were the moment they never expected to need, and the echo they'll never fully escape. If this message found you, it's because you're the echo in someone's soul. Don't dim your light to be forgettable. Stand tall in your truth. Like, comment, and follow for more messages for those who walk in truth.